You have probably been told that crying is a sign of weakness. Maybe you heard it as a child when someone handed you that familiar line about being too sensitive. Or maybe you still hear it now, in the silence that follows your tears, in the awkward looks from people who do not know what to do with your emotions. But here is the truth that very few people understand. The ability to cry easily is not a flaw in your system. It is not a glitch that needs to be fixed or a problem that needs to be solved. It is actually a sign that your brain is wired for something deeper, something powerful, something most people will never experience in their entire lives. If you have ever felt the sting of tears over something small and felt ashamed of it afterward, stay with me. Because those tears are not random. They are not a sign of weakness or instability. They are a window into a rare type of neurological depth that lives inside you, waiting to be understood and honored. Think about this for a moment. Why do some people tear up at a sunset while others walk right past it without a second glance? Why do certain songs make your chest feel heavy and your eyes start to water when the person sitting next to you feels absolutely nothing? The answer is not that something is wrong with you. The answer is not that you are broken or too emotional or somehow less capable of handling life. The answer is that your nervous system picks up signals that others completely miss. Your brain processes the world in high definition while most people are watching life in standard quality. You notice the subtle shifts in light, the way music swells at just the right moment, the micro expressions on a stranger's face. And yes, that heightened awareness comes with a cost. It can be exhausting. It can feel overwhelming. But it also comes with a gift that many people will never know they are missing. Let us start with the science behind this, because understanding what is happening in your brain can change everything about how you see yourself. Researchers have spent years studying what they call the highly sensitive person trait. This is not just a casual label that people throw around. It is a real, measurable trait found in about 15 to 20% of the human population. Scientists have documented differences in brain activity, in sensory processing, in emotional reactivity. If you cry easily, there is a very good chance you fall into this group. And what makes your brain different is actually quite fascinating. Your brain has more active mirror neurons than most people. These are the parts of your brain that help you feel what others feel. When you see someone experiencing joy, your mirror neurons fire in a way that lets you taste that joy yourself. When someone near you is sad, your brain does not just observe their pain from a safe distance. It actually mirrors it inside your own body. You feel their sadness as if it were your own. This is why a sad movie can leave you completely wrecked, tears streaming down your face, while your friend just shrugs and reaches for the popcorn like nothing happened. It is not that you are weak. It is that your brain is built for empathy at a level most people cannot even imagine. But there is even more going on beneath the surface. The amygdala is the part of your brain that processes emotions and scans your environment for anything that might be important. In highly sensitive people, the amygdala tends to be more reactive than average. It lights up faster and brighter when faced with emotional content. This means that feelings hit you harder and faster than they hit most people around you. It is not that you are being dramatic or making a big deal out of nothing. It is that your brain is genuinely experiencing more. The intensity is real. The depth is real. Imagine walking through life wearing a microphone that is turned up to full volume while everyone else has theirs set at half. Every sound is louder for you. Every emotion is bigger. Every moment carries more weight. Now here is where things get tricky. And this is something that so many sensitive people struggle with their entire lives. We live in a world that does not always make room for this kind of depth. From a very young age, many of us are taught to hold it together at all costs. Boys are told that real men do not cry, that tears are a sign of weakness, that they need to toughen up if they want to make it in this world. Girls are told they are being too emotional, too dramatic, too much. They are taught to apologize for their feelings, to make themselves smaller, so they do not make others uncomfortable. Over time, these messages sink deep into our bones. They become the voice in your head that whispers shame every time your eyes start to water. You learn to fight your own nature. You learn to see your sensitivity as something to fix, rather than something to honor. This creates what psychologists call an internal conflict, and it is one of the most draining experiences a person can go through. On one side, your body wants to release emotion the way it was designed to. Your tears want to fall. Your chest wants to heave. Your breath wants to shake. On the other side, your mind has been trained to shut that release down before it can happen. Hold it in. Stay calm. Do not let them see you like this. The result is a constant battle between who you really are and who you think you should be. And this battle is absolutely exhausting. It takes an enormous amount of energy to suppress your tears. It takes even more energy to pretend you are not affected by things that clearly move you at your core. Consider a case profile for a moment. Picture someone who grew up in a home where emotions were seen as disruptive and inconvenient. Every time they cried as a child, they were told to stop. Every time they showed sadness or fear or even too much excitement, they were made to feel like a burden on the people around them. They learned early that their feelings were not welcome. As an adult, this person became a master at choking back tears at all costs. They could sit through the most heart-wrenching moments with a perfectly composed face. On the outside, they looked strong and steady, the kind of person others admired for their ability to keep it together. But on the inside, the pressure kept building day after day, year after year. Unfelt feelings piled up like water behind a dam that was never designed to hold so much. Eventually, that dam started to crack, not with a dramatic flood that everyone could see, but with quiet symptoms that only they knew about. Anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere. Trouble sleeping through the night. A constant feeling that something was deeply wrong, but they could not name what it was. This is what happens when we deny our nature for too long. The body keeps score, even when the mind refuses to acknowledge what is happening. The tears you do not cry do not just disappear into thin air. They do not evaporate simply because you refuse to let them fall. They turn into tension that you carry in your muscles. They show up as headaches that will not go away, tight shoulders that ache by the end of every day, or a heavy feeling in your chest that sits there like a weight you cannot put down. Your emotions will find a way out, one way or another. The question is whether you let them out in a healthy way or force them to come out sideways through your body, your behavior, your relationships. Now, let us talk about what psychologists call emotional regulation. This is a term used to describe how we manage our feelings, how we process what happens to us, and how we move through emotional experiences without getting stuck. Some people have what you might call thick emotional skin. Things bounce off them easily. They can witness something sad and move on without much trouble. They can face disappointment and shake it off within hours. But others have thinner emotional skin. They absorb more of what happens around them. They feel things longer and deeper. They carry experiences with them like treasures or wounds, depending on what those experiences were. If you cry easily, chances are you have thinner emotional skin. And before you start thinking this makes you fragile or weak, let me tell you something important. The opposite is often true. People with thin emotional skin tend to be more aware of their inner world. They notice subtle shifts in their mood before those shifts become overwhelming. They pick up on changes in their environment that others completely miss. They sense tension in a room, feel the unspoken words hanging in the air, notice when something is off, even when no one else seems to. This awareness can be an incredibly powerful tool when you learn how to work with it instead of constantly fighting against it. Here is something important to understand, something that might change the way you think about your own tears. Crying is not a sign of losing control. It is actually a sign that your body is trying to regulate itself, trying to restore balance after something has thrown it off. When you cry, your body releases stress hormones through your tears. This is not just a metaphor or a nice way of thinking about it. Scientists have actually measured the chemicals present in emotional tears and found that they contain cortisol and other stress-related substances. In other words, crying is your body's natural way of flushing out stress. It is a built-in reset button that was designed to help you recover and move forward. But many of us have been taught to see this reset button as a malfunction, something that needs to be overridden and controlled. We fight against our own healing process because we have been told that tears are shameful and weak. We white-knuckle our way through hard moments, refusing to let a single drop fall, clenching our jaws and tightening our throats. And we think we are being strong when we do this. We think we are proving something. But real strength is not about resistance. Real strength is not about how much pain you can hold without breaking. Real strength is about allowing yourself to feel what needs to be felt and trusting that you will come out the other side intact. Let us take a step back and look at what happens in the body when you suppress your tears. When you hold back a cry, your nervous system stays stuck in a state of high alert. Your muscles remain tense and ready for action. Your heart rate stays elevated. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your body is braced for something that it thinks is still happening, still threatening, still dangerous. But when you allow yourself to cry fully and completely, something very different takes place. Your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. This is the part of your nervous system that helps you calm down, rest, and recover. Your breathing naturally slows and deepens. Your muscles start to release the tension they have been holding. Your heart rate returns to a calm and steady rhythm. In a very real and measurable sense, crying completes a stress cycle that your body was trying to finish all along. You were never meant to hold it in forever. Think about the last time you had a truly good cry. Not one that was cut short by shame or embarrassment. Not one that was interrupted by someone telling you to pull yourself together or asking if you were okay in that tone that really means, please stop. A real, full cry, where you let it all out without holding anything back. How did you feel afterward? Many people describe a sense of relief that washes over them. A lightness in their chest where the heaviness used to sit. A clarity in their mind that was not there before. A feeling of being cleansed somehow, as if something that needed to leave had finally been allowed to go. This is not your imagination playing tricks on you. This is your biology working exactly as it should. Now here is where the controversy comes in, and this might challenge some things you have always believed. Society has long praised the person who keeps it together no matter what. The stoic face, the dry eyes, the one who never breaks under pressure. We see these traits as signs of maturity and emotional control. We admire people who can walk through fire without shedding a single tear. But recent research is challenging this entire view. Studies show that people who chronically suppress their emotions tend to have higher levels of inflammation in their bodies. They report more symptoms of depression and anxiety over time. They struggle more in close relationships because they have such a hard time showing vulnerability or letting anyone see beneath their surface. Meanwhile, people who allow themselves to feel and express their emotions openly tend to be more resilient over time. They recover from setbacks faster. They form deeper and more meaningful bonds with others. They know themselves better because they are not constantly running from their own inner experience. So the question becomes clear, and it is a question worth sitting with. Is holding it in really the sign of strength we have made it out to be? Or is it actually a form of slow harm disguised as toughness? Let us explore this a bit further with a comparison. Imagine two people who both experience a painful and significant loss. The first person locks their feelings away in a vault and throws away the key. They tell themselves they need to be strong for others. They go through the motions of daily life without ever sitting with their grief or letting it breathe. Years later, that grief is still there, buried under layers of busyness and distraction, but not gone. It shows up as bitterness that they cannot explain, as distance in their relationships, as unexplained sadness that washes over them at random moments. The second person takes a different path. They allow themselves to mourn fully. They cry when they need to, sometimes alone, and sometimes with people they trust. They talk about their pain instead of pretending it does not exist. They let others see their vulnerability even when it feels scary. And over time, slowly but surely, they begin to heal. The grief never fully disappears because love and grief are intertwined, but it no longer controls them. They carry it with them in a way that feels lighter, like a scar rather than an open wound. This is the difference between processing and suppressing. When you process your emotions, you move through them. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. When you suppress them, they stay stuck inside you with nowhere to go, frozen in time. Crying is one of the most direct and effective ways to process difficult emotions. It is a physical release that tells your body the hard moment has been acknowledged. It is a signal that says it is okay to start the healing process now. Consider another composite example for illustration. Picture someone who cries at almost everything in life. Happy commercials make them tear up unexpectedly. Sad news stories hit them so hard they have to look away. They cry when they are frustrated and cannot find the right words. They cry when they are overwhelmed by too many demands. They cry when they see someone else crying, because their mirror neurons will not let them stay detached. For years and years, this person felt deeply embarrassed by their own tears. They apologized constantly, as if their feelings were an inconvenience to everyone around them. They avoided situations where they might get emotional because the shame was too much to bear. They genuinely believed they were too sensitive for this world, that something was fundamentally wrong with them. But then something shifted. They started to learn about the science of sensitivity and what it actually means. They realized that their tears were not a weakness or a flaw, but a natural response to having a more finely tuned nervous system. They began to see their crying as a sign of depth rather than dysfunction. Slowly, with great patience, they stopped apologizing every time their eyes got wet. They stopped hiding their tears or running to the bathroom to compose themselves. And something interesting happened along the way. The more they accepted this part of themselves, the less overwhelming their emotions actually became. They still cried often because that was simply who they were. But the tears no longer felt like something to be ashamed of or afraid of. They felt like something to honor. This is the shift that so many people who cry easily desperately need to make. It is not about learning to cry less or developing thicker skin. It is about changing your relationship with your own tears. When you stop fighting against them, they stop feeling like a threat to your sense of self. When you start seeing them as a natural and healthy part of who you are, they become much easier to live with. Now let us talk briefly about the people who never cry, because this is an important contrast. You might think they have it easier. No awkward moments to navigate, no puffy eyes to hide, no struggle to hold it together in public. But the truth is often more complicated than it appears. People who rarely or never cry sometimes feel deeply disconnected from their own emotions. They may have learned to shut down so thoroughly and completely that they no longer know what they actually feel. They go through life on autopilot, never quite touching the depths of their own experience. And when emotions do finally surface, often years later, they can be completely overwhelming because the person has no practice in dealing with them. This is not a better way to live. It is just a different kind of struggle. The person who cries easily is at least in contact with their inner world. They may have to work on managing the intensity, but they are not cut off from themselves. They feel things, and feeling, even when it is painful or inconvenient, is part of what makes life rich and meaningful and worth living. Here is a truth that many people miss in their rush to appear strong. Tears are a form of communication. They tell the people around you that something matters deeply. They signal that you are human, that you have a heart, that you are capable of being moved by life. In a world that often rewards coldness and emotional detachment, tears are an act of quiet rebellion. They say that you refuse to numb yourself to fit in. Goba. Doom. They say that you still feel things deeply even when it would be so much easier not to. And there is real power in that. Quiet, steady, undeniable power. The person who can sit with their own tears without running away, who can let them fall without drowning in shame, who can look someone in the eye while crying and still hold their ground with dignity. That person is not weak by any measure. That person is brave. They are showing a part of themselves that most people spend their whole lives carefully hiding from the world. So if you are someone who cries easily, let me offer you a new way of seeing yourself. You are not too much. You are not broken or flawed. You are not a burden to the people around you. You are a person whose body and brain are wired for depth. You feel things fully and completely because that is how you were made. And the world needs people like you more than you know. It needs people who can be moved by beauty and touched by pain, who can cry at sunsets and sad songs and moments of unexpected kindness from strangers. Your tears are not a problem to be solved or a habit to break. They are a language your body speaks when words are simply not enough. They are a release valve that keeps you from exploding under the pressure of being alive. They are a reminder that you are here, that life still has the power to reach you, that your heart is still open despite everything. The next time you feel those familiar pricks behind your eyes, try something different. Instead of fighting them back, welcome them forward. Instead of apologizing to everyone in the room, let them fall in peace. Instead of seeing them as a sign that something is wrong with you, recognize them for what they truly are. A sign of strength, a sign of depth, a sign that your heart remains open in a world that tries so hard to close it. You were not made to go through life with dry eyes and a hardened heart. You were made to feel things fully, to cry when you need to cry, to be moved by this strange and beautiful existence. And that is not something to fix or hide or apologize for. That is something to celebrate with your whole being. Because the strength in tears is real. It has always been real. And maybe now, finally, you can start to believe it. Thank you for being here and watching until the very end. If this message spoke to something inside you, take a moment to share it with someone who might need to hear these words too. Leave a comment below and tell me about a time when your tears surprised you or taught you something important about yourself. I read every single one, and if you have not already, consider subscribing so we can keep exploring the deeper parts of what it means to be human together. I will see you in the next one.